I Am Not Starfire is a recently released graphic novel written by Mariko Tamaki and illustrated by Yoshi Yoshitani. It tells the story of the daughter of the DC superhero Starfire named Mandy. It focuses on Mandy's troubles at school, the fact that she doesn't have powers like her mother, her relationship with her crush, teen drama, what have you. When the trailer first dropped in July 2020, it was not very well received, to say the least. As of this video, the trailer has 166,000 dislikes. And with dialogue like this, it's easy to see why.
And since I'm not my mother, what happens next is going to be totally messed up.
When the graphic novel actually came out, it received mixed reviews, many seeing the story as just mundane. Most of the criticisms people have for this graphic novel is Mandy herself, seeing her as an unlikable and poorly written main character. Many people have described her as a self-insert of the author Mariko Tamaki. Now, I haven't actually read I Am Not Starfire myself, but I have seen quite a few reviews/readings, and to be honest, I don't really agree with that notion. But I want to be fair and analyse this. What are self-insert characters? Why are they so hated? And are they always necessarily a bad thing? Let's find out. According to Urban Dictionary, the most trustworthy website behind Twitter and BinWheels.com, a self-insert is when an author or writer puts themselves into a story they have written as a character. It is not a character in which the audience inserts themselves or can relate to. It is absolutely no relation to the audience or readers. It is specifically referencing the creator's personal avatar. The most common examples of self-inserts are found in fanfiction. Heck, self-inserts are pretty much an entire genre of fanfic themselves. We'll get back to that later though. For now, I will look at some examples in the media. The Divine Comedy is a 14th century poem written by Dante. I don't know how to say his last name. It's most well known for the first part of the poem, Inferno, or Dante's Inferno. The poem follows Dante himself alongside 3 different guides across the poem as he travels through hell, purgatory, into heaven. I'm keeping the summary of the Divine Comedy pretty brief here, since there's a lot to it. I recommend watching these videos by Overly Sarcastic Productions if you want a better summary of the poem. The point that I'm trying to make here is that, well, the poem is one of the older but most famous examples of a self-insert story. It's literally the author writing a story about his own afterlife. And yet, this poem was heavily influential into how heaven, purgatory, and hell are seen today. It's interesting to note that one of the most influential stories of all is a self-insert story. A trope that is so heavily mocked is in the same story that has deeply influenced how we view the concepts of heaven and hell. And this is absolutely not the only one. The author of the Dirk Pitt series, which is about an adventurer named Dirk Pitt, has inserted himself many times into the novels as a deus ex machina. Stan Lee falls into this too. His cameos count as self-insertion. Bella Swan from the Twilight series has been criticised for being a self-insert of the author Stephanie Meyer. Randolph Carter in the H.P. Lovecraft tales falls under this as well. You'd be surprised how common self-inserts really are in the media. I suppose it's up to personal interpretation how good you think these stories are, but do the self-inserts part of them really make them bad stories? If you ask me, I suppose it really depends on if the story itself is written well. It seems most people see self-inserts as something amateur writers do when they can't create a character different from themselves, or as a sign of arrogance, thinking they're so good that they can put themselves into a story. Many people believe self-inserts to be badly written characters or just straight-up Mary Sues. And I suppose that's when we come back to fanfiction. After all, inserting yourself into one of your favourite fictional worlds and writing about it is one of the most controversial things of all. There are many fanfictions that follow this trope, but arguably the most well-known of them is My Immortal. If you don't know what My Immortal is, it's a Harry Potter fanfiction published in 2006 on fanfiction.net by renowned author XXX Bloody Wrist 666XXX, also known as Tara Gillespie, if that's even her real name. Basically, the fanfic is about the main character. I don't even know how to explain the plot. Edgy and stupid stuff happens and we just all cry laughing. I did do a reading of this fanfic on my channel a while ago, but the editing is questionable, and it uses that annoying text-to-speech voice. Here are a few excerpts.
Draco leaned in extra close and I looked into his gothic red eyes. He was wearing color contacts, which revealed so much depressing sorrow and evilness, and then suddenly I didn't feel mad anymore. And then, suddenly just as Draco kissed me passionately. Suddenly just as you what? Draco climbed on top of me and we started to make out keenly against a tree. He took off, again incorrect grammar, my top and I took of his clothes. I even took of my bra. Okay, here's the best line. Then he put his thingy into my you-know-what and we did it for the first time. Draco banged on the door. I whipped and nay-nayed and wept as my bloody eyeliner streamed down my cheeks and made cool tears down my feces like Benji in the video for girls and boys. Raven, that is Sue our video. Dumb Eldork will get you. Draco shooted. Yeah, just wait you tilde mystery find out exclamation mark 11 vampire yelled. Meanwhile I took out my wand. You ridiculous donda exclamation mark 111 Snoop yielded. He took off all of Draco's clothes. Just as he was about to rape him. Crozio. I shited pointing my wound. Snoop screamed and started running around the room screaming. And then, I began Frenching Draco sexily. Lupin gasped. Draco began to take all of his clothes off and I could see his white sex pack. Then Vampire took his own clothes off too. We all began making out together sexily. I took off my black leather bra, my black lace thong and the rest of my clothes. Everyone took their glocks out except for me and the girl lol. Oh me Satan. Draco. I screamed as he put his hardness in my thingy, then he did the same thing to Harry.
The main character of this fanfic is a girl named Ebony Darkness Dementia Ravenway, a character many people have described as being a Mary Sue and a self-insert of the author. Which is interesting since pretty much nothing is known about the author's identity. Honestly, that's a whole other can of worms right there. Ebony is badly written in the funniest way possible, gothic to the teeth, just like Mandy from I Am Not Starfire, interestingly enough. She makes out with pretty much all the Harry Potter characters. If you ask me, I think My Immortal is probably just a troll fic, and because of that, I don't think it's a self-insert story. But there is a fanfic that might just be a self-insert story. And it's one of mine. Miraculous Tales of Ladybug and Cat Noir is a French CGI animated TV series about superheroes. I have a lot of feelings about the show and its writing, but that's not important right now. What is important is that I wrote a fanfic about this show, and the main character is actually the most similar to me out of all of my OCs. Sure, most of them have a little bit of me in them, but this guy is different. He even looks the most similar to me, even more so than my actual persona does. But John is different. He's meant to represent the miraculous fandom, tired of the show's shenanigans, but he can't seem to get away from it. I wanted him to be more relatable and down to earth so the audience can connect to him, compared to the show's cast who are very cartoonish. I guess he's kind of an everyman, but he's an everyman we can relate to, I guess. So maybe he's not my self-insert, he's the fandom's. Good on you, John, you're best boy just behind Daddy Moon. To me, it's not really whether or not a story is a self-insert story. It's about the quality of the story itself. If you can make a good story using your self-insert, then more power to you. And hey, maybe it's just fun to imagine yourself in a fantasy world. Maybe it's your escapism from reality. Or maybe you're just sick of a show's bad writing. Self-insert stories are still stories. They can be good or bad. They can become famous and influence our culture. They are hated because the characters have a bad reputation of being Mary Sues or whatever. But if the self-insert is interesting, then who cares, right? You can enjoy and read whatever you want. People will write fanfiction as a hobby. You don't need to read their self-insert story if you don't want to. All protagonists of all stories are somewhat inspired by the author's own interests. To me, that is what Mandy is. A character that the author wanted to explore a story through, rather than inserting herself into it. I suppose that's up to you whether or not she did it well. Whatever the case, don't hate self-inserts. Just read whatever you want. Hey, thank you so much for watching. This is my first time making a video essay thing like this. I hope you like it. Might make more like this in the future, as I have a few more ideas for video essays, but we'll see. Also, a bit off topic, but I'm currently hosting a Draw This in Your Style prizes on my social media. I'll link them below. Until then, see ya. to me, it's not really whether about whether. To me, it's not really. It's not to me. It's to me. It's not really whether about. To me, it's really whether. Oh my god.